Hello, Seiiti Arata. If you have children around you, please stop watching this video now because we need to talk about something that is often misunderstood and stigmatized: addiction to pornography and masturbation. Now, some people might be thinking, well, what? Addiction to what? Well, yeah, exactly this. Some people call it ménage à moi, or single player mode. But instead of making jokes about it, we should acknowledge that this is a serious issue and it can have real consequences for individuals and their relationships. There are people who have been struggling with excessive masturbation and they're feeling worried and helpless. This is an actual problem affecting millions of people just like you because there is a trend powered by digital pornography. And today you will understand more about it, what's happening, and how to overcome this addiction. The excessive masturbation can lead to a number of negative consequences, including dopamine tolerance, making it difficult to experience pleasure and enjoyment from other activities, as well as mood swings, irritability, and an increased risk of addiction. This is a serious conversation that you must understand more about the dangers of excessive masturbation and how it is impacting your life. Addiction to excessive masturbation is a serious issue. So you need to pay attention to the warning signs. For example, if you're feeling shame and guilt, you're probably suffering from excessive masturbation. You might be anxious about not being able to control your impulses and break the cycle of addiction. You may worry about the impact of your addiction in your work, your social life, your relationships with friends and family. In your social life, you may feel isolated and disconnected from those around you due to your addiction. You might fear judgment and rejection if other people find out. You might also have fears about developing other addictions and the potential negative effects on your overall health and your well-being. There is a good side to all this suffering. This is a sign that you are aware of the problem. And having awareness is the first step to get rid of addiction. Don't let addiction to masturbation control your life. Take control. Avoid the potential negative effects. Masturbation is a natural process that people discover in the early teenage years when they start showing an interest in sex. When it is done sporadically, masturbation doesn't cause many problems and can even be a way for teenagers to get to know their own bodies. The problem is when this practice becomes too frequent and then it turns into an addiction. Many people dismiss excessive masturbation as a trivial or a shameful activity, but it is important and it deserves to be discussed here because it can have a significant impact on your life. For example, if you don't take control of your addiction, you might find yourself constantly distracted and even unable to focus at work, especially if you work in a home office. This could lead to missed deadlines and missed opportunities for advancement, potentially putting your job at risk. You might find yourself getting passed over for promotions or even being let go from your job. And all of that could lead to financial strain, stress, causing even more damage to your mental health, your physical health. One scenario where this could happen is if you are out with friends in real life, you meet someone new, you even flirt a bit, but instead of enjoying the moment and potentially building a connection and advance, you let your anxiety take over. You just find it more convenient to go home and masturbate. This gives you immediate satisfaction, but the next, it is followed by resentment, self-hatred, and even more anxiety. Nothing good is coming from this, so why do you keep doing it? Probably because your body is addicted to the immediate reward and always seeks for more, even if rationally you don't really want it. In extreme cases, the excessive masturbation can lead to other harmful compulsions, other addictions. For example, you might turn to alcohol and drugs and other forms to continue masturbating with, all types of things like virtual reality types of toys and other destructive behaviors in an attempt to cope with the negative effects of your masturbation. This could further damage your mental health, your physical health, causing you to become more and more isolated and unhappy. Changes in the body's stress response system can lead to addiction. Take control of yourself and seek help if you're struggling. Addiction is complicated because there are so many reasons to explain it. The development of addiction to pornography and masturbation can be influenced by a variety of factors, including underlying mental health issues, the history of trauma, individual differences in the susceptibility, and different types of risk factors. From a psychological perspective, addiction is often characterized by a loss of control over the behavior in question, as well as the continued engagement in the behavior despite negative consequences. Why? This can be due to changes in the brain reward pathways. They can be altered by the repetitive exposure to the pleasurable stimuli. These changes can lead to an increased craving for that behavior, as well as a decreased ability to experience pleasure from other activities. And this applies not only to masturbation, but to any other addiction, such as drugs, food, gambling. From a physiological perspective, addiction can also be influenced by changes in the body's stress response system. Exposure to pleasurable stimuli can cause the release of neurotransmitters like dopamine, which can cause a sense of pleasure and reward. But over time, the repeated exposure to these stimuli can cause the body to become tolerant to the effects of dopamine, leading to a need for higher and higher levels of stimulation in order to achieve the same effect. This can result in a cycle of addiction and dopamine tolerance, which the individual becomes increasingly dependent on that behavior in order to just feel good. That's why so many people suffer from withdrawal symptoms whenever they try to break an addiction. From a biochemical point of view, addiction can also be influenced by genetic factors. Certain genetic variations can make different people become more susceptible to addiction, even though at the moment scientists don't yet know exactly why this happens. In addition, other factors such as education, social support, access to resources, they can all play a different role in the development of the addiction. Now, even though the exact mechanisms of addiction are not fully known, it is still possible to overcome it. Cognitive behavioral therapy, for example, is a common treatment approach for addiction, and it focuses on identifying and changing the negative thought patterns and behaviors. This approach can be effective for individuals who are struggling with addiction to pornography and masturbation, as it can help them to develop healthier coping mechanisms to reduce the reliance on that behavior. Now, although the development of the addiction to pornography and masturbation is a complex issue that can be influenced by so many different factors, there is one particular reason, and that is the main reason. It is called happiness. Don't just treat the symptoms. Address the cause. True happiness is the key to overcoming any addiction. Unhappiness is one of the main reasons why someone can become addicted to a substance or behavior. Because, see, when you're not happy, you seek pleasure in external elements that can end up becoming something that you are dependent and addicted to. I'm using the word happiness as a very broad, very general word to encompass the whole field of positive psychology. And that's what we cover in our training, Happiness, that you can visit in arata.se/happiness. When an individual finds true happiness, they're less likely to turn to substances or different types of behaviors as a way to cope. Therefore, they're less likely to develop an addiction. True happiness can protect against addiction by providing healthy and effective ways to cope with negative emotions. Basically, when individuals are unhappy, they will turn to substances or to behaviors as a way to escape from their negative emotions, their negative feelings. This can provide some temporary relief and a sense of pleasure, which can make the individual feel better at that moment. But over time, this can lead to addiction as the individual becomes increasingly reliant on that substance, on that behavior to feel good. Additionally, Unhappiness can also lead to a lack of motivation, lack of interest in other activities. And this all can cause the individual to engage in the addictive behavior more frequently, which just further reinforces the addiction. Not only that, unhappiness can also lead to social isolation and a lack of support from friends and family. This can make it more difficult for the individual to break the addiction and to increase also the likelihood of relapse, of coming back. So, lack of happiness is a downward spiral. If you don't act, things just get worse with time. Therefore, instead of just trying to treat the symptom, please, you need to address the cause. Don't just focus on the addiction to masturbation itself, but what is behind it. See, I specifically here, I didn't share any techniques such as, oh yeah, you need to use this plugin. You can block the porn website using this special setting on your internet browser, because that simply doesn't work on the long term. It only addresses the symptom. You need to go deeper. You need to understand what is the cause of your unhappiness. When you are unhappy, you will turn to substances or behaviors as a way to escape from your negative emotions. This can cause addiction. It's very important to address the underlying causes of unhappiness. It is important to seek help to your addiction in order to prevent these negative consequences and take control of your life. By addressing the underlying issues and finding healthy ways to cope, then you can improve your relationships, your career, and your overall well-being. This is why now I want to invite you to watch a special class of our training, Happiness, which will cover tools from positive psychology that you can use right now. You can visit arata.se/happiness.